Hello everyone and welcome to Android 11 Meetups by GDG. Hello sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yep. Hi.
Mr. Domar.
Yep. Can you hear me?
So thank you for coming today. I'll give the floor to you.
Okay. Yep. Morning to everyone that's watching live right now, or if you're going to watch this later, like, good day to you. So first of all, thank you to GDG Philippines for the invite. So it's been a pleasure helping out with the community, and especially this time that we can only do like online events for now. So yep. So I'm here to talk about what's new in Android development, or especially what's new for Android developers. So around times this, we normally have like, the I/O season. So they have like May, June, the Google I/O, and then they announce like a lot of stuff for Android developers and other Google technologies. So we don't have one right now. So they just announced the beta launch show last like June 10. So they just release all these new videos, all this information. So, yep. So let's go about some of the new stuff that are new or coming for Android developers. Well, most of what's new is focused on Android 11. So that's why we have this Android 11 meetup. So, but my talk won't focus only for Android 11. So we're gonna talk about some other stuff that's are fairly recent that they just also announced. So in case you're wondering why this logo for Android 11 is like this, so it's based from the 1984 movie. This is Spinal Tap, so where guitarist Nigel Tufnell proudly demonstrates an amplifier whose volume knobs are marked from 0 to 10. So instead of the usual 0 to 10, his knob has up to 11. So that's why this is the logo. I don't know if it's gonna be the final logo since we're just having the beta. But yeah, so we're talk first about Android 11 and then move on to some other topics. So right now we're in the middle of the Android 11 release cycle for the beta. They started with February with the developer preview, and then by May they launched the fourth developer preview. They only launched the beta like June, so there's gonna be another beta with July and August probably before they finally release it around the third quarter of the year. So let's talk about like what's new with the UI. So one of the new things that they're focusing on is like putting people up front. So like when you have a notification like from people you love or from people you work with, your friends, so those notifications will be prioritized at the top of the notification with drop down. So you can see here the image at the right. We have this conversation notification section. So all those messages that are really more important to people, like instead of getting notification about the weather or about your devices or something. So those are not important. So people are more important. So they are putting that at the top. So you can also group them and stuff, and you can create like shortcuts to them to the home screen, and then you can change the priority so that, like for example, you have a lot of different notifications and you don't want to dismiss them right away, or you want some notification from another person, like for example your significant other, you want them to be at the top of these ones, so you can change the priority. So you can long press on it and it's gonna be at the top. So to create a conversation notification, so you just need to have a notification, of course, but you have to build like a person object with a person that builder that build, and then you also need to create a dynamic shortcut for it. So we can create with a shortcut info compat at builder. Then we set the person, and then we also have to set it to long live so that it will stay at the top of the notification. Then we have to push or create shortcut. So we can use a push to just automatically add that single shortcut there. And also we have to use a messaging style. So notification compatible messaging style that we also have to add the person, then we add the message. And then when we're creating the notification with the notification compat builder, we have to set the shortcut ID that we created earlier, the shortcut info that ID, then build. And then it will automatically be set as a conversation notification. So ideally that should be easy. So they have like shared code labs and other samples for this one. So another UI change is the bubbles. Well, technically bubbles has been released last year with Android 10, but they kept it as a developer preview. So what bubbles do is as an alternative to the system alert window. So previously we have all those chat bubbles that we have. So we can use it to talk with other people or message somebody else, like while doing something else, or like probably playing a game, or I don't know, watching or reading. So what happens with bubbles is like from the notification, you can create or you can convert those notification. So there's gonna be an icon at the bottom of each notification. Then you can like pop it out as a bubble. So let's see. Well, to make those notification as a bubble, you can create a notification bubble metadata. Then we create it with the shortcut info ID that we created earlier for the conversation. And then we set that bubble metadata with the notification compat. and that's it. I mean, users can also set like this app can set a bubble for this specific conversation, or it can also set it for all conversation for a specific app. So there's a setting for that in the settings panel for users. So another user-facing change is the quick access device control. So remember when you're long pressing the power button, the screenshot, power. So like previously it was just power button, like on and off, and now they made it with a screenshot and then with the emergency information. But with Android 11, so they have added like payment methods. Like for example, you have a Google Pay account or another payment solutions. So it's gonna be displayed here. So you can long press the power button, then it's gonna appear there. And then also the smart home controls from like Google Home. So if you have like smart devices, like smart TV, smart refrigerator, smart microwave, or whatever, or like smart lighting. So you can control it there. But also as a developer, we can also create our own for like, for example, we have our own device and then we have a separate app for that. We can add it to the control here at the bottom by adding our own controls provider service. Okay, so another thing is the new media control. So this is like the pause, play button, like when you're playing a media or an audio or something. So so previously it was a different classification. So right now it's gonna be near the quick settings. The one on the right is the expanded view. So when you swipe the quick settings, it's gonna be on the left for the small view. So this one is the expanded view. So it's gonna be there. And then I don't know if you can see it, but there's something in the right of that media control. So it's a pixel buds. So that icon and text specifies the output device. So you can click that and then the output picker will display and then you can change it to, like for example, instead of your earphones, you're going to play it on your device. So right now we have in beta and beta 1.5, it's not yet the default. So I don't know why. Maybe they're still testing it, but they say they plan um, to release that on the next beta release. But for now, you can test it by going to system, settings, system developer option. Then there's a toggle media resumption checkbox, and you can just select that. And you need to restart your device, and then you're going to see this the next time. So Android 11 has a lot of different UI changes. It's gonna take a lot of time if we're gonna discuss everything. So like there's a screen recorder, the keyboard animation, so you can animate like when the keyboard appears or disappears. There's going to be suggestions for the keyboards, like new screenshot UI when you're taking a screenshot. So the long press of the power button, the screenshot is no longer there. So when you're displaying the recents, there's gonna be a screenshot select share icon there. So that's where you can take the screenshot. Also, the volume power up button is still there for screenshotting if that's how you used to do it. On the home screen, the bottom part of the home screen, you can also have app suggestions. So like the most recent apps that you use. So they're using machine learning on what applications should be there. So you can select like up to 5. Then when you set it as fixed, it is gonna be a fix a suggestion on the bottom. It's like the way we normally added stuff there. So voice access, the application that they made for accessing applications by voice. So previously, to select like the text boxes and buttons there, so it's like numbered, but now it can understand the context. So like when you say select click OK button, it will understand what that button is instead of saying click one or two something. Then since 5G is almost here or coming, so it's pretty complicated, but there's like 5G visual indicators and like APIs for that. Then so like for foldables, they also have added a hinge angle API so that you can accommodate for different screen sizes, and also like if your device is like curved or waterfall, they have a separate new APIs for that. And there's even more than what I have listed here. It just cannot fit the slide. So, but as Android developers, you shouldn't. We have a lot more that's beyond these UI changes. So let's start with more developer focus stuff that's new. So first and foremost, so Android SDK is gonna be API level 30. So if we're gonna target SDK version of 30, and then compile SDK version of 30, and well, that's the gist of how to make your app ready for Android 11. So that's why they have this developer preview and beta releases, so we can test the applications, how they perform on a newer device, like what are the changes that we need to do, or will it run, or will it crash, or will it display stuff still? So yeah. So one of the changes that they have made for Android 10 was adding permission that only while the app is in use. So with Android 11, they step it up even further with one-time permissions. Like for example, if you're accessing microphone, your camera, or location, you can set the app to access to give the permission only when the app is only this time for this app. Like for example, you just need to take a picture. Just okay, I gave you the permission. Then after that, if you need to ask again to get to access the camera, so it happens while the app is in use and it's there in the foreground. So there's a certain amount of time that like when you go to the background or go to another app, so it's still gonna retain that permission. But when you like close it and then you reopen it again, or it like days or something, you would need to request again for permission. Okay. So speaking of permission, so we have more from permissions. Like when your app start getting Android 11, and it's unused for a certain period of time, like for probably months or so, Android 11 can remove the granted permission, so you would have to request again. Well, of course, when they reset this permission, you're gonna be notified like that your app has been removed of this permission, and then if you don't want your app to be reset with that permission, you can go to settings, that application detail settings, to display this just this image on the right. So you can prompt the user to unselect this, and so that your app will be exempted from the auto reset. So it will be up to you to like how you ask the user that you need to grant this permission. Like for example, you're using you have an application that's only set up once and it's going to run forever. I don't know what kind of app that is, but it's possible. Like you just set up the app and then it's going, and then the user don't need to do anything. So you can allow them to not auto reset the app permission. Then, so last for permissions, I think is that when you're asking for get line 1 number from either the telephony manager or the telecom manager, so previously we're using read phone state. For Android 11, so you need to use the read phone numbers instead. So like if so that your app can be targeted for Android 11 and can run on okay on lower devices, you have to specify that the max SDK version for read phone state is 29. Or if you're just targeting Android 11, you can just use read phone numbers. Then another change for Android 11 is the background location. If your app needs access to the background location, previously for Android 10, you can just ask it at the same time. Like, I need access to foreground location and background, foreground and background. So like all the time. Now with Android 11, you first need to request foreground permission, and then after that, you can ask the user for another permission to allow the background permission. And you have to open the app settings, and then like the image on the right shows for Google Maps, they have to manually select allow all the time so that their app will have access to the background location all the time. So not just when it's on the foreground. They also announced that in February, I think they announced that you would have to get approval to get background location. But since with the recent events, so they're giving more time, and then this background location access would be allowed for now, and they will have this policy enforced by 2021. Also, if your app is not targeting Android 11, there's going to be a pop-up that instead of the default location permission, you can ask the foreground and background permission at the same time. Yep. Speaking of foreground, so for Android 11, there's a new foreground service type that's specific for camera and microphone. So if you would need this access for your foreground services, you would need to add them on your Android manifest file. So we can specify just camera permission or camera service type, or we can add multiple types with the pipe bar thing. I don't know what that. I don't remember that symbol. Then also, if you're targeting Android 11, you can no longer query like the installed applications. So you can just so previously you can just get all the applications installed on the device, and for privacy reasons, they won't allow that anymore. But you can declare specific packages in the manifest, like for example, apps you own or apps that are like compatible with your app. So you can request by specific package or by specific intent filters, like an app that can open mail, for example. If you have a need to query all the packages, like for example, you're a launcher or a file manager, you can request Android.permission query all packages, and the guideline for that is coming soon. So you would need to have it approved too. So they have added like all those private APIs that that are now, like for example, in the Android 10, they were previously on the gray list. So now they are restricted, so you can no longer access them. And they also added more APIs that are now in the gray list. So you would need to check if you are accessing this one, or if there are alternatives that you can use, because like they won't function anymore, and you would need to update your app. So scope storage is another thing that was introduced in under 10, but wasn't really enforced. So now they're going to make it mandatory for under 11, and with scope storage, you only get a limited access into what is in the external storage, so you can only access your own folder for that. For example, so the storage permission is now renamed to files and media. So you can get the file path access. To get file path access, like before, you can request. You can set the request legacy storage external storage to true. So they have also added like new API, so you can edit, delete, and favorite and trash items multiple at the same time. So like this trash is like a new thing that, like, for example, you want to dispose of this file. So there's going to be like a special folder, I think, that where all those files will be there and then it's going to be to remove like after 30 days. So it's more of like a recycle bin. Like for example, you have cache files, you can put it there, and then it's going to be removed. Okay. Of course, like for example, if you are like a file manager, you would need access to everything, and we still have that with managed external storage and like all this other stuff that I mentioned. So there's going to be a manual review, and I don't know the how that's going to be, but yeah, it's possible, but yeah, it's going to be. Okay. And the next is data access auditing. Like for example, we have our application, and we know that, for example, we have safeguards on how we are accessing private data, or like we don't access private data. But like for example, we have dependencies, and sometimes we don't know if these dependencies have been getting data. Like for example, there's this login application, or no, there's this login API that like when we log in via that, so it can access a lot of data. We don't want to do that. So data access auditing is that for that, and also for our application, so we can see which parts of our app are accessing data, so we can prevent it, or we can know what's private data is being accessed, and we can like notify the users, oh, we're accessing this, sensing that, or we can prevent that to be accessed at all. So they have this ops manager, app ops collector. So these are the callbacks that when the user permission data is accessed, so you can see that there, and then you can also set attribution data there. So like for example, this is this feature, and then that another feature, so you can group them together. Okay, another thing that's coming is wireless debugging. So normally we've been doing debugging all this time with cables and devices, and sometimes it's a bit messy. So we have tried like other solutions, like other plugins to allow debugging um, with with the Wi-Fi, but some of those solutions are not fast or not secure, or probably, I don't know. Can't comment on that. But now we have this official support for ADB, or the under debug bridge. So it's in the developer options. We can set it. We can like for example, this image on the right, have turn it on. Then I have the device name, the IP address. So the first IP address is when we're connecting with like Linux or Windows. So we have to connect with that IP address. So ADB connect the IP address in the port. And like if we're using Mac, we can click the pair device with pairing code. So the IP address will be displayed there, and then you can do ADB pair, and then that code, that IP address. And also, if you can see, there's a pair device with QR code. So it's not yet available, but it's going to be available with a later version of Android Studio. And yeah. And then ADB incremental. So like if you have a large application or it's so-called the path APKs, or probably if you have games and then so bulky, so you can speed up the installation, for example, of that with ADB incremental. So it will only install all those stuff that are new, but you need to use signature scheme version 4 format. That's the latest. And then unfortunately, it's a hardware based, so it's for now it's only available for Pixel 4. But any device that's launching with Android 11 should be able to use this according to Google. So next, yeah, crash reasons. Like for example, our app crash or something bad happened, so we can get the reason for that. Like why did our app exit? So they have this get historical process exit reasons that returns a list of application exit info. So from this application exit info, we can get the specific reasons why it's crashed. Like for example, ENR crash, no memory or unknown, or like there are a lot more there. So we can use this, like for example, with our crash reporting tools. So we can log why it actually crashed instead of relying on those stock traces. So like we can see why it has exited. So, okay. Others. And then, like, yeah, there's a lot more. I should have. So these are, like, for example, like what we're supposed to be doing now. We're going to check if like our existing application so what we normally do is we set the app target SDK version to 30. And then we check all those new stuff. Like for example, like permissions, we have to check permission, and then we have to check the foreground service type. We have to check these one by one. So we have, then sometimes we don't know that there's this change that we also need to accommodate. And with this app compatibility changes, so it's a developer tool. It's in a bit, without changing our target SDK, we can preview what is going to happen to our app on Android 11. So for example, we have to run an app as a debug version, or we just need to set it as debuggable. Then we can toggle one or more features. Like for example, we just need to set a specific change, and then make sure that our app is compatible with that, and then do another round with another thing, and then This is grouped into like I think 3. So we have, so once you go to app compatibility changes, you need to select your app. Like for example, this is an app that is a target SDK 29. So for Android 11, there's a default enable changes. Like for example, all the apps, regardless if you target 30 or not, this is enabled. So you have to check this. They also have default disabled. Like these are experimental according to them. So probably gonna be either enabled or going to be not enabled. Um, and then at the bottom, like for example, if your app is targeting 29, so you can preview all these new changes, then you can turn them on one by one. So like, for example, if your app is targeting an even lower version, um, you have to set them. Like for example, if your app is targeting 28, you have to first, of course, check the changes for API level 29 and then for 30. So you can, uh, like for example, if you inherit a legacy application, then you can just check all this and then one by one or two at a time, and then you can check there, like, okay, these are the stuff that's not working, these are the stuff that's working. So you can then create a list plan of what you need to do. So yeah, this can help us on that one. And then they plan to add more of these changes. Like for example, um, even now I don't see all the changes here. So probably in the next beta they are going to add more. And then for the next version, of course, we can be this can be really useful too. Okay, I think at least that's more or less the Android 11 changes. So like, if you read the developer site, there are more changes that we can have, and there's really a lot of stuff. So some of those matters to our application. Some are more specific, like if you target, if your application is a specific application, so you have to check all those changes. So kind of summarize all the stuff that would impact all developers regardless of your application. And yeah, so let's move on to what Google is calling modern Android development. So these are the tools, APIs, languages, distribution technologies. So these are their official recommendations on how you can be productive and how you can create applications that runs on all devices, even if they are old and has low specs. Um, so their official recommendation, like for example, for language is Kotlin. The official distribution is Android App Bundle. The official IDE is Android Studio, and then the recommended APIs is Android Jetpack. So we'll discuss more a bit on each of these 4 later. So let's start with, okay, yeah, Android App Bundle. So Android App Bundle is the official publishing format now. So instead of the APK, like we used to, we just need to enroll to app signing on Google Play, and then we will be uploading just this single APK bundle, no, app bundle. And then Google will create all those sign APKs for our users. So if, like for example, if you are publishing a single APK that's a very large APK that accommodates everything, you don't need to do that anymore. Or if you're used to adding multiple APKs that target different, like for example, you have one for each device type, so you don't need to do that anymore. You can use Android App Bundle, so it's just one publishing format. And then with Android App Bundle, you can also have dynamic delivery of features. Like for example, you have like for example, a scanning code, or like a certain feature that's only rarely done by the user or rarely used by your consumers. So you can just download it when the time is ripe for that, or when it's the time, when it's the right time for that. Like for example, for that, like for example, scanning, you just need to download it on demand that it's needed. Um, with Android App Bundle, you can do that. So right now, you can publish Android applications with App Bundle and APKs, but starting next year, they're going to require it for new applications. So I don't know when they'll be going to require it for existing applications. So we'll find out soon, I guess. Then Kotlin is like their new, their official tool, official language that supported. Well, they're still supporting Java and like C++, and if you use native, for example, but right now they're mostly Kotlin first. So, yep. According to a video that they released recently, um, of the top 1,000 Android applications in the market right now, so 70% of those are already using Kotlin, and then like 60% of professional Android developers are already using it. They say that they have 55 Google apps that are using Kotlin. So like, for example, Google Maps, Google Home, Google Pay, Google Drive, and more. So they're using that officially. I don't think I need to talk why Kotlin is the recommended. So as Android developers, you should already be starting to look into it. And yeah, they also officially recommended coroutines and deprecated async tasks. So you should be using this. And then like for existing Android SDK, so most of the stuff that are recently nullable, they are now nullable in Android 11. And if it's recently non-null, so it's now non-null in Android 11. And then they added more of this with the new SDK. So we can easily use them with Kotlin. They also announced that, well, they are been doing this for a while now. So most of their libraries, their contents are Kotlin first. So we will have sample of these new libraries that are Kotlin first later. And then Jetpack, if you're not yet heard of Jetpack, so Jetpack is this collection of libraries that can help developers follow best practices, like reduce boilerplate and write code that works on newer devices and higher end devices and lower end devices. So we can focus on most of our actual application instead of worrying about all those things. So Jetpack's mostly all those Android X libraries or the Android extension libraries that we have. So they also announced like 3 new libraries. Hilt is for their dependency injection. Like it can be used with Dagger, and so if you are wondering why it's named Hilt, it's like the container for the Dagger, so that's why it's named like Hilt. They also have this app startup library. So like, for example, we have to set up these components or this views or stuff during application startup. So instead of working or creating a lot of messy code to start up these things, so we can use this app startup. Then they also have this paging tree. So paging tree is like the third version of the paging library, so we can load and display data. So this one is like an Kotlin first library, so they are also using like, I think, coroutine for this. And then they have a lot of existing libraries. So they have, I think, like a 2-week release cycle. So every thing is updated. Speaking of Jetpack, so they also have this Compose. So this Jetpack Compose is like, instead of like creating manual XML file for views that we have there, we can create it with Kotlin, and we can have this editor on. So we have less code, and then we have the tools, and we're using Kotlin AWS for that. It's still in developer preview, but you can try it and see if it's good. So, but yeah, you can try it out for now. So another part of modern Android development is, of course, Android Studio, the official IDE. Like this month, I think we have like, we are now on Android Studio 4.0. So 4.0 is the stable version, and we have 4.1 on beta and 4.2 on Canary. So I'm just going to discuss a bit of what's new on them, because like there's a lot of different changes. So for Android Studio 4.0, like they have this motion editor. So if you're using motion layout, so you can easily create motion and transition with a motion editor. So they have live layout inspector. You can, if you know Chrome DevTools, so live layout inspector is a bit like that. So you can specify which part of the code, like this view has this color, so why is it that color? So you can check like the way you used to do in Chrome DevTools. So layout validation, you can preview this UI in like different devices, like for example, for a Pixel 3, for a tablet, and so they also have build analyzer. You can diagnose issues with your build process. So like you can check why this build is acting this way. They also have like dynamic feature dependency, like if you are like with the app bundle earlier that I mentioned. So like if this feature is depending on the main or the app module, you can now depend on instead of depending on the main module, you can depend on another specific module. Like for example, your login module depends on, or your a specific module depends on the login module instead of the main module. So you can do that now. You can edit R8 rule for ProGuard script and more. Then they have additional live templates for Kotlin. For Android Studio 4.1 beta, they have like this database inspector. Like you can, from the editor, you can edit the database table, and then it will automatically update with your app. Or if you change something in the app, you can see the actual data from the database there. So especially if you're using like Room for the Jetpack, and then you can also now use the Android emulator in Android Studio, so you don't need to open another window just to check. So you just do everything in Android Studio, and then if you create new projects with 4.1, it has been updated with the new material design component. So all those styles and themes will be there by default, and it's going to be updated. Then if you're using Dagger from Jetpack, they have support for navigation. So they also have memory profiler, and apply changes is now also faster. And there. And then for Android Studio 4.2, they're going to start changing the icon. So it's one of the biggest change for that, I think. But since it's still in Canary, a lot has going to be changed. So one thing that I haven't tried the second Canary. I don't know if the wireless ADB debugging is already there, but that's going to be there soon. Then we can run instrumentation tests from different devices at the same time. We can also check test failure there. And then if you're using Jetpack Compose, the Canary version has the support for that already. Yeah. So moving on, the Google Play console is the next thing that's aside from Android Studio, the next thing that we normally interact with. And they have redesigned it from the ground up. So it's in beta. If you want to try it out, it's at play.google.com/console. You can also access the old one at /apps/publish. But this one has new design with Google material, and it's also responsive. So you probably don't need the Android app anymore for that. And then they have a new grouping, so like release, grow, quality, monetize. So all the new features are specifically grouped on what their actual functions are, instead of the previous navigation grouping they have. They also have like a policy section at the bottom, and you can see the status of your application if you have a violation or something. And then for app content, you can check like if you're targeting a different platforms. User management is also easier, so you can see it from there. And there's going to be a new feature called inbox, like messages is gonna be going there. Yeah, so let's discuss a bit more on each like grouping. Like so the first one is release. With the release, we can see the summary of the releases, the highlights, the requirements, the everything that's related to release, even app signing and advanced settings. So stuff that are here are the pre-launch reports. Then they group all the testing, so internal and public testing. So the public testing is these are the close close alpha and then the open beta. So it's now grouped together here, and then it's near testing. Then the launch is like if you're going to start the production or if you're going to start a pre-registration. Then you can also see here the devices, device catalog, app bundle explorer, which is like all those previous artifacts that you have. Then there's also some additional stuff that's added here, like for example, the pre-launch reports that has improved metric description, stability, clustering. For launch, for example, they have like a country management, and for pre-registration, also country availability. And for advanced settings, if you have other platforms, and then like carrier targeting, and app availability. For quality, they have grouped the, well, rename the user feedback. So it's now ratings and reviews, which is what they actually are. And then the other thing is the Android Vitals. So Android Vitals is about how our app is performing or how stable is it. You can see the crashes, the A&Rs, all those aggregated data. It's going to be here. So they're grouped together. For Grow, this is where we have the statistics and trends and how much um, how much our app grows and how are we earning on it. So probably not as much for developers, but also for like the other members of the team, like for some marketing. So like conversion, returning users. We can filter it by data, country, store listing. How our app is set. Like we can also change categories. We can specify contact, external marketing. Then there's the transition services if we want to target another market or we want to localize it to a specific market. So most of this stuff are now away into this grow section. So they're going to group together. Okay. Okay. The next thing I think is the 11 weeks of Android. So June 10, they release all these videos and announcements for Android 11 beta. So, but it's really not enough time. So they have been setting this 11 weeks of Android since it's Android 11, so 11 weeks. So we are already on the second week. Um, so they're going to discuss specific topics per week. They're also going to be like AMAs on Reddit. So ask them anything on week 4 for compatibility, week 7 for developer tools, and week 11 for UI. You can check the website on specific content. But since we're already on week 2, week 1 was on people and identity. So for conversation, notifications, bubbles, and the new changes for Google login, the Google identity services, I think. So they have a recap of all those things. So normally each day of the week they have either a code lab, a new video, or a specific blog post about something that's related to the topic. And like they also have this pathway. It's more like a collection of these code lab and videos. So um, you can follow that instead and you can earn like a badge. So it's linked to the Google.dev profile, so you can um, follow that learning path instead of manually checking all these videos, all those, and so you can check it at one place and track your progress. Like, oh, I have read all these, watch all these, and done the code lab, so you can check that. Uh, for week 2, they discuss TensorFlow Lite, TensorFlow Hub, Machine Learning Kit, and they also announced the winners of the Android Developer Challenge for helpful innovation. And they have the videos and the pathways and the blog post, and I've got the short links. For next week, I think it's going to be uh, privacy and security. So you can check out what um, you need to learn it. So yeah, we're almost done. So I have here the links of the the website of 11 Weeks of Android. So they have a separate playlist of videos that they released for that 11 weeks. And then the pathways, the learning pathways for that. You can check the beta launch for all those stuff that's related. So developer.android.com/Android 11 to check the preview or download. So I haven't really discussed that. You can download Android 11 beta on Pixel devices, and then there are other device manufacturers that also have released their Android beta. So I don't have the complete list, but you can check. I think OnePlus, Nokia, yeah, but yeah, you can check that. It's not just only for Google Pixel devices. And then if you want to check the features that they released on Android 11 during the launch, so it's at Google/Android 11. Then yeah, so I think I've summarized everything. I haven't really discussed everything because there's going to be a lot, and we only have like 1 hour for this talk. So if you really need more information, you can just check developer.android/preview. If you need to check your application if it's going to work, you can check all those tools like the compatibility changes and developer options. So yeah, I guess for now we can just
Thank you, Sir Jomar. I think there are questions on the Google form. You can check it.
yeah, okay.
Or do you want me to?
Yeah, we can check that. So what are we going to do? We're going to ask or I just going to get them, I guess. So number one, what is Android 11? I don't. This is an early question, so yeah, I guess hopefully by the end of this talk, you have already learned what Android 11 is. So yeah, the next one is for Bayan. Does Android 11 come with the new contact tracing API? I don't think it's dependent on the OS. So it's it's something that's going to be released independent of the OS because Android 11 is targeted for like the third quarter. That one I think is going to be available soon. So you don't need Android 11 for that. The next question is, on your opinion, what is the most useful change they have in Android 11 as a developer? From Stephen. So I think as a developer, probably the app compatibility changes because without changing the target SDK version, you can know if your app will work or if it's gonna crash. And so from there, you just toggle all those changes and without actually changing your app. So, yep. Then from Joe Tyron, is AAB for Google Play distribution? Well, the Android app bundle is it's for distribution on Google Play, but I think there are other Android distribution channels or other Android markets where you can support that they support Android app bundle. it depends on them if they're going to support it, but it's not even required yet for Android. For Google Play, it's going to be required for new applications. For existing ones, we don't know when they're going to require it or if they're going to. For now, we can also use APK for that. Also, if you are using Android App Bundle in the device catalog in Google Play Console or the App Bundle Explorer, you can download specific APKs from there that you can upload, or you can also create like that's the previous FAT APK. Then you can upload that from to other distribution channels. But yeah, I hope I'm answering these questions. You can just ask another follow-up question if I haven't answered it there. Number 5, how do we encourage developers stuck with Java to move to Kotlin? Yeah, this is a different topic. So how do we encourage? Well, we all know the benefits of Kotlin, and like for example, me personally, I just tried it small, step by step. Like you can use Java with Kotlin. So if you want, you can just migrate this old code to Kotlin, or you can just create new stuff in Kotlin, and from there you'll see how good it is, and even you yourself will just be motivated to change everything to Kotlin and do everything there. Um, so Kotlin is still Java based. So yeah. The next question is, can I use Java for Jetpack Compose? I don't think so. It's like a Kotlin first library, so I don't know if they're going to. Right now, it's still in developer preview, so I think you can use Java for other parts of your code, and then Jetpack Compose you would need to use Kotlin, but I don't. It's going to be, I don't know, why are you trying to make your life complicated with Java and Jetpack Compose? So I think if you are still using Java, you can just change a part that would need Jetpack Compose to Kotlin, and then you can use it there. So it can interop with each other. But for full Java support for Jetpack Compose, I don't think that's going to happen now. Maybe in the future because it's still in developer preview. But as I mentioned earlier, most of the new resources from Google, most of the new libraries that are coming, they're going to be Kotlin first. So sooner or later, we would need to adapt, I guess. So, next question, will there be an online only Google I/O? I don't think there's going to be a I/O for this year. There's for next year, we don't know yet. So yes. Does wireless debugging work on earlier versions of Android, or is it exclusive to Android 11? Actually, I haven't really tried on a lower device because I have already switched to the 11 beta. But it looks, from the looks of it, it's like an Android 11 exclusive, because that setting on that setting is going to be in the developer options, but I don't know if it's going to be available on the old versions. maybe we can ask them. I don't know if they're going to allow to add that, or maybe there's going to be someone who's going to create like an app that can or a library that will allow you to use that. But for now, it looks like it's Android 11 exclusive. Uh, yep. I don't know. There's no more questions on the form. Do we have questions on the live channels?
I think all questions are on the form. So wala naman po sa comments.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Sir Jomar, for your time. I think gabi na dyan. So we miss you here in the Philippines, and we hope we can do more Android talks in the future.
Yeah. I mean, we just like have this. It's more of an introductory talk. So yeah, even with this, they have a lot of stuff. So we can definitely have like follow-ups on this one. So yeah.
Okay. Actually, I can send you still the link when we receive more questions after this course, because we will be sharing the whole video on our social media pages as well after this. Thank you so much, Sir Jomar, and thank you everyone for being with us today. Have a great day.
Yep. Thank you
Thank
and stay
you.
safe,
Stay safe.
everyone.